Welcome everyone to the next installment of this month in Microsoft Teams. My name is Tim Homan. I'm a project manager with Peters & Associates, and one of the areas that I've been tasked with is becoming the subject matter expert for Microsoft Teams. And that is a task that is a moving target because the Teams app is updated so frequently. So what we're trying to do with this month in Teams is provide a look at some of the new functionality and features when they're added. Additionally, I try to throw in some tips and tricks where I can. So let's get started with Teams apps, specifically apps by Microsoft. And why I say that is because last time I checked, there were over 1,000 third-party apps that are now available for Teams. And trying to get into that would be overwhelming. And so what I'm going to do is focus on the ones that are published by Microsoft. So specifically, I've got them on the list here. It's tasks, which kind of includes Planner and To Do, Microsoft Forms, Lists, and then Whiteboard. And so as with all of these, I start with an overview of the Teams app just so we get everybody on the same page, and then leave some time at the end for demo and questions. So first question I have to answer is, why are we using GoToWebinar to do a Teams presentation? And we started this almost 2 years ago. And at that time, there really wasn't an option in Teams to do registration. And that's the biggest reason why we're still using the GoTo platform. Microsoft recently announced the webinar feature. So there's 3 kinds of meetings you can have. Just a regular meeting, a live meeting, and then they've just added webinar. So we're starting to explore that option. So maybe someday we'll do a Teams meeting using Teams. So let's get started with, what is Teams? So Teams is an app for meetings, for chat. It can be your phone system. We use it at Peters & Associates. A lot of people are going that way. It's just great to incorporate everything into one application. A great way to share files, not a way to replace your email, but greatly reduce email. To-do list, which is one of the things I'm going to show today. Dashboards, so all this integration just brings everything together into Teams. So it's a way to integrate different processes and applications, automate tasks, third-party apps, which I mentioned before. It's communication, collaboration, it's all in one application. Another way of looking at that same slide, just popping these out in a circle here. So, like I said, not replacing email, but reducing, because there's a lot of integration, and that may even be a future this month in Teams, is to show all the different ways there are to integrate Outlook and Teams. And what's nice is that, your schedule gets pulled right out of Outlook, and you can send emails back and forth between Outlook and Teams. So Teams is strongest when you're doing file sharing and content creation, co-authoring documents, callings and meetings, which I had mentioned. At its basic functionality, it's chat, and it's a much better platform for chat because it's controlled. So you can put governance in place so that, if someone is putting information into chat that they shouldn't, you can control that. And much better than texting or using some other kind of an app. And it just helps your whole organization connect. And so this is our envisioning or implementation graphic that we put together on how to deploy Teams. So today in these kinds of sessions are really envisioning, kind of showing what is possible with the application, and we can customize these for your environment. We can focus on specific applications or specific features. What's really important though is having that governance discussion, and there's just a lot of options in Teams. There's a lot of data that can be shared, and if you don't have a plan to control that information before you start, it's a lot harder to go back then and put those controls in place. And so that just leads over to the adoption and finally implementation, where we bring engineers in and make sure everything is going to work properly and all the knobs are turned and switches are in the right orientation. So this is just how we can help you with your implementation of Teams. So why are we talking about Teams? It is probably Microsoft's hottest product. I updated this slide. So the last time I had this, we had the 115 million daily active users, and it's jumped up to 145 million daily active users. And it's a difficult stat to compare across platforms, and I try to do that. I think Zoom reports theirs as it's individual uses of Zoom. So if you had 3 Zoom meetings in one day, they would count you as 3. And Microsoft would count you as 1 because you're a active user. So hard to tell, right? How popular these platforms are, but you get a lot more with Teams than you do with Zoom. There's all the other integrations that come with it. So, organizations using Teams, when they launched in 2017, it was 50,000. Now it's 500,000. And then 91 of the Fortune 100 companies are using Teams. This slide I haven't updated yet. Maybe next month I'll look at it again, but it's just showing new features that have been added by quarter. And so, what we're looking at here is, the first part of this year, how they're not slowing down. So new features are coming on a regular basis. So it's interesting that they already have, new features in the queue that they're projecting to be released, even though we're not there yet. So today, the focus is going to be on apps. It's specifically, apps from Microsoft. So my disclaimer, today is not intended to be a training session. It's really just a high-level overview. I could probably spend, 20 to 30 minutes on each one of these applications. There's a lot that they do. What I'm trying to do is just give you an idea of what the possibilities are to kind of get the wheels turning and, help you, make Teams a better platform in your environment. So these are the apps we're going to look at today. Task is what it's called, and it's really Planner and To Do. And To Do it's a standalone app, but it's also part of Outlook. Planner is kind of a project management app in Teams, and then Task kind of brings it all together. So these are the apps we're going to focus on. Let's just jump into it. So here I just want to point out, I think it was just last week, I went into the admin console for Teams, and I just went to manage apps, and there's 1,002. And this is a governance discussion that I have with people where I tell them, I recommend turn off all third-party apps, enable all the Microsoft ones. I think we're more comfortable with how those are secured. But if you enable 1,000 third-party apps, people are going to start putting them in their team sites and sharing data, and you're more than likely going to run into issues. So it's easy to do if you know how to do it, and then you can come into here and approve select apps. So in that 1,000, there's probably an app that you're already using in your organization. Why not enable that and then just have people come to Teams to access that information? So these are the apps we're going to be looking at today. So here is the task by Planner, forms, lists. The other ones are pretty straightforward. PDF. The whole Power Platform is a whole nother topic. Maybe we'll get into at some point. Down here is Whiteboard. So just these are the ones you get from Microsoft, and we're going to focus just on a few of those today. So first is Planner. And Planner, it's an easy-to-use, team-based project management tool. It's built into Microsoft 365 groups, so that helps you with the ability to, provide security and manage your groups. You don't have to individually add people. You can use groups that are already created. It's really good for tasks that don't require a real formal project manager. It's easy to use. It's card-based. You can customize it. Each individual user can kind of organize it to view things in a way that works for them. And it competes with things like Trello, Rike, and Asana. So again, this is where it gets confusing because Planner, um, it's no longer a standalone app. When you add, I can show you this, Planner to a team site, it shows up as tasks. And so what task really is, it's your to-do from Outlook or the standalone to-do app plus Planner, and that gives you tasks. And these are a lot of different tools that can kind of do the same thing. And so I'm going to kind of talk about, the topic is really what tool when. The next app is Lists. And Lists is really an app that lets you use SharePoint lists. And I think another big advantage of Teams is it has all the power of SharePoint behind it, but you don't have to get into the SharePoint interface to manage it. So if you don't spend a lot of time managing a SharePoint site, there's a lot of options and it can be overwhelming for people. And so something like List, which is also a standalone app, and there's a web page for it, but it's going to give you all the power of a SharePoint list. They're smart, flexible, kind of like Excel, but it takes it to another level. You can customize them. You can display them in different ways, like a calendar view or a card view, and you can incorporate some of that automation with some of the Power tools. So you could create a simple Power Automate where if information is added to a list, you can get an email. So something you can't do with Excel. And you can even start a list from an Excel spreadsheet. Another nice thing about lists is that there's a whole bunch of templates that are already created. So I played around with a few of these. I did an employee onboarding. I did asset management. So if you want to do inventory, super easy to use. So again, just an easy way to get information into Teams, get people in there. And it just is a much better organizational tool than something like Excel, because a lot of people tend to use Excel as a database, and it's not. It's super easy to delete something or move something in a spreadsheet, and it just screws the whole thing up. And then having people co-author, just you're going to run into trouble. So if you registered for this, you're going to get the presentation at the end, and this is kind of just outlining that, right, which tool when. So if it's something you're planning on doing with a team, then Planner and Lists are really the tools to go with. If it's something you want to do individually, to do is more the tool to use. And so just kind of a chart to summarize what things and then what tool to use. So I put those tools together because they offer some of the same functionality, and then the other ones are just more standalone. So Microsoft Forms, it's just a great tool to let you do surveys, quizzes, questionnaires. It's a very intuitive interface to build forms. I've done a few in my demo environment, one for my team site on remote workforce, just to kind of get a gauge of where people are at, right? So people are working remotely, you don't really see them, it's hard to ask how they're doing, so you could do a simple, just a culture survey put it on a team site, collect information, easy to report. And then the last app we're going to look at is the whiteboard. So, you know, whiteboards are been around for quite a while, but a digital whiteboard gives you a lot more flexibility. So you can collaborate in real time on a whiteboard. And what I'm specifically looking at is the whiteboard that you can add to a team site. So it's not the standalone application, it's really the web-based version, and they've really done some enhancements to it to really make it a much more robust app. And there's some future plans, I think, to tie it into OneDrive so you can maybe save that and use it into other places. So it's another one of those things that's being developed. So something that I've done many times in the past is process improvements where you get everybody in a room, right? You start brainstorming about ideas. People will come up with ideas on sticky notes. You go up and you put it on the board. How do you do that remotely? Even if you are all in the same room, I think people feel more comfortable, you know, if they can be more anonymous and participate from their seat. So I've kind of mocked this up, and I'm going to show this in the demo, but you can do that same exercise with a digital whiteboard in a team site so that that information is preserved and it's there and you can be used, right? The problem is once the meeting's over, the whiteboard is gone. You can take a picture of it, but it's really not the same. And so this way, right, it's digital, it's interactive. The whiteboard's infinite. You can just scroll when you need more space. So let's jump out of the PowerPoint and then we'll get into the demo. So first thing I want to show is just Planner, which is part of tasks. And so we've done several of these at Peters and Associates. The first one I always show is how we do events and web pages. So we redid our entire website. Every single page had to be reviewed. And so this is just a simple planner tab in a Teams site in a channel. And every time a page came up for review, it was put in here. People were assigned to do it, and you just would check yourself off as you reviewed the page. So it could be a blog, it could be an event. Very simple and straightforward. Some of the nice things, though, you can do is you can view this in different ways. So just a different way of looking at that same information. If you're kind of overseeing that project, whatever it is, so you can see who has things assigned to them, make sure things are being distributed in an appropriate way. There's also some great ways to filter, so you can just see things that are due for a specific time or just assigned to you. Let's jump into another one that's got some more information. So it's just nice to see some different ideas of how people have used these tools, just to give you some ideas on what you can do. So just a different way of organizing information. Again, we can group this different ways. We can look at how things are assigned. So you can just scroll across and see, looks pretty well distributed. You could view this by due date. Everything's late because this is a demo. You can also label things. These are just labeled generically, but for some of the things I do, I use labels quite frequently. And again, you can view it by a chart view or schedule view, which is really nice to see. If you have things that are going to pop up on this calendar, it's going to just give you an easier way to view that information. So another one I'll jump in and show, my remote workforce. I did just some simple work goals. So I created the goals, and then I just thought, I would let employees solve my demo environment. So it's not real, but something you could do, and something I might do if I managed a group of people, right? These are the goals that I have, and you just come in and pick the ones that you want to do and set a deadline. And again, it's something you can view the schedule of. Once you've accomplished it, you can check yourself off, right? And now you're not on there anymore. And then the last one I want to show is the one that I do all the time. And this is my annual health check. So I run annual health checks for about 40 of our customers that we do a lot of monitoring for, and it's part of the contract. And so I started by creating a card with a whole bunch of tasks that I need to do. And so when I go to do one for a new company, I'll just come in here and I will copy this. And we'll just say it says company 3. I'm going to move it to the in process bucket. And so now here it is. So I don't have to type any of this stuff over again. I just copy I called it my template task. And then I can assign it. So who is the account manager for that company? And then as I start working through the tasks, so I'm going to email them. I'm going to submit a ticket when they get back to me and say it's okay to do the scan. And then, if there are issues, so they're not getting back to me, I may move it over to I'm waiting for customer feedback. And then when it's finally done, I'll move it over to completed. So a couple different ways to use, right? And again, you can view this in different ways. This one, it's nice to see by labels. So I see I'm working on one for Bob, one for Mike, right? It's just an easy way to see that information. And so what this will roll up into is, so now over here, this is the task I plan her in to do. And so when I click on this application, what it's going to do is it's going to pull all of those tasks that are assigned to me into one view. Something that I do personally is I use to do in Outlook. Sometimes I'll just flag things, but if I know it's more of a project, I'll actually turn an email into a to-do item. And so I can just come in here and click on task, and this will show me to-do items from Outlook, or I can come down here and click on, this is really the planner tasks that are assigned to me. And what's nice is it shows you each team's site and where, right, all those things come from. So I could just pick on, so if I just wanted to look at website review, I could just see those. So these are the tasks that I have assigned, or I could just see a bigger list of everything. So a lot of ways to manipulate lists and to-do items. We haven't done the list yet, but for project management. So it's not going to do Gantt charts, and so it's really not designed at that level, but for smaller projects, keeping people on task, getting everybody on the same page, these are just some great built-in tools to do that. So next I want to show is lists. And so let's go down here. And I'll show you what I've done with this. So I started just with the asset manager where I created a list and I picked a template and it's an inventory. And so I added, right, one laptop. If I want to add another one, it's simple and it's all driven by that template. So I can pick an image, we're going to do this HP Elite book. Did 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's do 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's see. And all these are customizable, but this is all the stuff that is built in. So like I said, let's say this is a new asset that is available, it hasn't been assigned yet. If I can add my own here, can. This is the Elite book. And it's a laptop. So, right, a lot of information you can add here. When was it purchased? Let's say we just got it. Right, it's just great. I did this a lot when I worked in a school district, and keeping track of, right, which paid for it, what the purchase order number was, all that information was cumbersome. And so, but what I could do with this is I could create a Power Automate flow that would let me know that an asset was added and it is available. So as you're adding items into the inventory, it would, right, whoever's going to be assigning those, it would be nice that they could go in then and see these assets were just added and they can be deployed. So this is what it looks like when you add a new list. So you get this kind of wizard to walk you through. I just did the plus, I picked list. You can create a new list, or you can add an existing. So if you had a SharePoint site that had a list already in it, you could use that. I'm going to say create a new, and here's where you can pull in from an Excel spreadsheet, just do a blank, or here are the templates that are available. Again, you can visualize these in different ways. So if it's a date-driven list, you can view it as a calendar. Yeah, so there's a bunch of different options. So for filtering and viewing. I don't know how much time you plan on this one, so I'm gonna jump ahead. I know we're at half an hour already. I'm gonna jump into forms. So I've done a couple things here. Here is my, where did I put it? Employee input. So that culture survey I was talking about. Every time you add a form, you get two options. One is the fill in whatever it is, and the other is the edit. So because I created it, I have access to both. And so here's, right, a simple survey, right? Are you inspired? Are your values aligned? You could submit that, but then you could come over here if you were the one that created it. And now I could either edit it and manipulate it, or I can view the results. And so I can view the responses, right? 3 responses, and it's just giving me an average. So you can get it, right? Just a feeling on, right, how are people doing? When I first started looking this, I was thinking about, well, kept coming up, how are we tracking who's in or out of the office? So I'm like, okay, well, real simple, what's the date? Are you in or out? And so when you look at that, which might be cumbersome if you're going to do that every day. So, right, this is going to give you more of a summary. I don't have multiple dates in there, but here's one date. There's multiple responses. You can see 2 people are in, 4 people are out. So I took that and went a little further, and I did, okay, well, let's look at for a week. So what's the first day of the week? And then for that week, are you going to be in or out? And now what you can do is look at that. And what I did here was you have the ability to look at these things in Excel. And so right here, I could scroll down through the week and look at it, but I wanted to take it a step further. So I did some conditional formatting. And what's nice is that the conditional formatting that I applied to this spreadsheet that's tied to that data stays with it. So every time someone would add something to this, right, I just did a highlight in red for the people that are in, because I want to know, right, what does it look like, who's going to be in the office. So super powerful, super easy. All right, you don't need any program to do any of this stuff. It's all right, forms. It's kind of a wizard that walks you through it. So last thing I want to show is the whiteboard. And here's my whiteboard. And so I just posted a whiteboard as a tab. I actually shared this out outside of my demo environment to my personal account, so I could manipulate this from, right, a laptop not associated with my work environment with a personal user. That's interesting. Oh, I thought I had information in here. Oh, there. We're zoomed in really far. So, oh, all right. So this is how I had done the ideas. Number 2. So really easy. You could do this in a meeting. And so now if I want to highlight some things, so some of the things they've added, if you click twice on a pen, you can change its color or the size. So idea 1, idea 2, idea 3. And now what you could have people do is come in and add sticky notes to that. So we'll do green notes under idea 3. This will be note 1. And here's how you can, right, get multiple people involved. There we go. And then I could add reddish note under idea 1. And it just shows how easy it is to do this. I could have, right, a room full of people all participating in this. Right, and there's a lot more you can do with the whiteboard. You can add shapes, manipulate stuff once it's saved. It's, right, super easy to shrink it and grow it or just move, right? We want to start over, but keep that information, right? And it's living inside of a team site, right, in a tab where it's going to be there forever. And just so if someone missed a meeting, they could come back and review it. It's much better than a picture of it. So those are the apps that I had to share today. Like I said, I could have spent 20, 30 minutes on each one of these. I just wanted to give you some high level overviews of their capabilities. Let's see if there are any questions. Let me pop my, all right. So I just want to make sure we mention what's coming up while we check and see if there's any questions out there. As we do every month, this month in cyber, that's coming up next week. And then we have our CMMC presentation that's going to be in June, and then our next this month in Teams a month from now. So
awesome. Thanks, Tim. We do have one question. It says, how do we integrate Whiteboard into the Teams site? I have the app through the Windows Store, but I can't find it.
You can just, from a team site, all I did was click the plus button and Whiteboard should show up here. It's an integrated app. It's part of Teams. You don't need to use oh, it's right there. It's the first one. Not alphabetical. It's sorted by recent. So that's all you have to do to add a whiteboard to a team site. So I don't think it's going to let me name it. Yeah, Whiteboard 2. And what's nice, right, because it's part of a team site, you already have the rights set up as to who can access it. And so now I have another whiteboard here. And if it's not there, then whoever is the administrator of your site needs to go in and make sure it's turned on. It's one of those things that can be controlled through the admin site. And so if it's off for everyone, but it can be enabled. Yeah, so that's all I had for today. I'm trying to keep these a little shorter. It can be information overload. So I'm going to shoot for 30 to 45 minutes and not go any longer than that, and save some stuff for next month. So maybe integration between Outlook and Teams. We can do calling. So maybe just highlight some of the new features because there've been so many new things added to Teams. So maybe that'll be next month in Teams. So thanks for attending, everyone. Hope you got something out of it. Feel free to contact us if you want more help with Teams. We're here to help out. And that's it. Thank you.